Xi Jinping revered his father. So why isn't he more like him? Despite President Xi Jinping's efforts to expel supposedly pernicious Western influences from his country, the People's Republic of China, like much of the world, will celebrate Father's Day on June 18. Many Chinese recognize that the holiday is a bourgeois commercial import designed to enhance gift-giving and the hum of merchant cash registers. Yet, the Western-style Father's Day, along with Mother's Day, has long been a Chinese family favorite, even among many Communist Party members. Indeed, given the party's surprising resurrection of traditional Confucian philosophy a couple of decades ago, there has probably been increasing social support for Father's Day in China. Filial piety, especially the principle of obeying and honoring one's father, is a central tenet of Confucianism. During the past decade of his unchallenged rule, to bolster the spirit of Chinese nationalism, Xi Jinping has frequently endorsed Confucianism despite its feudal origins and has rendered many tributes to his father, the veteran first-generation communist leader Xi Zhongxuan. Xi's father had run afoul of Chinese Communist Party chairman Mao Zedong in 1962 and been subjected to 16 years of harsh internal exile before being allowed to return to a prominent position in the party leadership after Mao's 1976 death ended the Cultural Revolution. Xi Jinping has occasionally dropped hints that his father might deserve a place in communist history equal to Deng Xiaoping's. Xi Zhongxuan was indeed broadly respected among the post-Mao elite, not only because of the many years of political suffering to which he had been unfairly subjected, but also because of the wisdom he brought back from exile. His most important contribution was the emphasis he placed on freedom of speech. The party leadership must allow differences of opinion, he repeatedly preached, if the party hoped to achieve its goals. People should be encouraged to think, speak out and act, and the party should respect their views and criticisms, he maintained. His words offered strong support for many of the exciting liberal political, economic and social reforms that struggled for recognition from 1978 to 1988. These were not mere platitudes, as Xi Zongxun's actions often showed. While leading Guangdong province in 1978 before his return to Beijing, he publicly commended a local prosecutor who had been bold enough to criticize him, and urged all officials to study the prosecutor's example. He worked to overturn the criminal convictions of many Cultural Revolution victims who had been prosecuted for expressing their political opinions. He helped secure the release from prison of 3 lawyers who had been detained for 4 years because of their vigorous legal defense of a defendant charged with rape. He promoted enactment of the People's Republic of China's first administrative litigation law to make it possible for people to challenge official conduct in court. And he warmly invited Western multinational companies to invest in the innovative special economic zones that he and Deng Xiaoping established in Guangdong and neighboring areas. To make this happen, he helped establish attractive conditions to assure foreign companies that they would not be subject to unpredictable and arbitrary interference by a party too often dominated by officials more concerned about security than development. Yet, Xi Zongxun's wisdom and his admirable record are precisely what his son has refused to emulate. Xi Jinping has ruthlessly suppressed the slightest dissent or disagreement among the party elite as well as the masses, and he has crushed the human rights lawyers so essential to the protection of free expression. He has also cracked down on both foreign and domestic business enterprises in ways that obviously impair the nation's development in favor of security. Why has he contradicted his father's ideals and practice? Given his family background and his own behavior as a local and provincial party chief, his Stalinist, centralizing, repressive exercise of national power has surprised those who supported his designation as China's party chief, president and military commander. What factors might explain this dramatic shift in values? Was it a perceived need to replace the policies and methods of the preceding Hu Jintao regime, which was widely criticized within China for its lack of unified leadership and its failure to stamp out corruption? Were there also complex personal factors involved, such as a determination to steer clear of implementing his parents' ideals to avoid a similar fate? We might never know the answers to these questions, and no one in contemporary China is likely to dare discuss this obvious paradox in public. But perhaps, in the privacy of his home and his heart, Xi Jinping himself contemplates them, as he remembers his father on Father's Day. Xi Jinping revered his father. So why isn't he more like him? Despite President Xi Jinping's efforts to expel supposedly pernicious Western influences from his country, the People's Republic of China, like much of the world, will celebrate Father's Day on June 18. Many Chinese recognize that the holiday is a bourgeois commercial import designed to enhance gift-giving and the hum of merchant cash registers. Yet, the Western This blue state election compact could create a constitutional crisis. Imagine a January 6-style crisis, only this time with serious, as opposed to politically manufactured, disagreements over whether the presidential candidate who won a key state is entitled to its electoral votes. That disturbing scenario just became a little bit more likely, not for the next presidential election but subsequent ones. Without fanfare, Minnesota's governor signed legislation last month that would award the state's 10 presidential electors to the national popular vote winner even if he or she lost Minnesota. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact purports to take effect once states carrying 270 electoral votes, the minimum needed to win the presidency, have agreed to its terms. The aim is to replace the Electoral College with an improvised popular vote system for electing presidents without amending the Constitution. Minnesota's move means that 16 states and D.C., controlling 205 electoral votes, are now parties to the compact. Michigan's Democratic-controlled legislature is also set to vote on the compact. If the Great Lakes state becomes the 17th to approve it, compact member states will control 220 electoral votes, bringing them more than 80% of the way to 270. Problems with the plan have been well documented since Maryland became the first state to sign on in 2007. As a constitutional matter, the compact probably requires the assent of Congress. But let's say the United States started an election season on the expectation that it would be in effect. The winner-take-all electoral college has limited the number of viable candidates to 2 in most elections. A popular vote free-for-all could invite 5 or 6 or more. If politicians would just need a national vote plurality to automatically be awarded the compact's 270 votes, and wouldn't need to win across a range of states, more candidates would think they have a chance. Larger candidate fields would lower presidential vote shares and weaken presidential mandates. This concern might seem abstract. But Donald Trump's effort to overturn the 2020 election ought to bring home the risks of monkeying around with states' time-honored systems for assigning electors. Trump wanted to prevent states such as Arizona and Georgia from delivering their electors to Joe Biden, even though Biden narrowly won those states. The compact has a nobler purpose, but it asks states to do the same thing, award their votes to a candidate other than the state's winner. That extraordinary demand would raise incentives for subversion. Would swing state Democratic governors certify a Republican presidential candidate as the winner of their state's electoral votes if most voters in their states voted for the Democratic candidate? The governors could claim a prerogative to ignore the compact under